morning, Karen Scholl, Operations Section Chief with the Alaska Incident Management Team, here for your September 22nd briefing. I'm going to start over on the northeast side of the corner, up in Huckleberry Mountain area. Yesterday we were able to fly with the good clear skies. Saw some minimal fire behavior. The fire did slop on the north side of Huckleberry Mountain. We were also able to get a scout in there to take a look at the feasibility of getting folks in there to try and just hold the fire in place. Also used some bucket work up in that area to just keep the fire in check, and while we'll develop a plan to get folks in there. But everything was looking real good up there. Fire behavior that we noticed was mostly smoldering in the heavier materials. Cougar Creek Road continues to be just opened up and prepped a little bit, making it easier for access, but everything in that area is looking real good. So we moved down into the Chicken Ladder Road area. The road's been prepped, opened up, we're able to access it, and we're working on the slop overs that we had down towards Elk Creek, and then also in this bowl area, what we're calling the 88 bowl, at the top of Chicken Ladder. That bowl, we were able to put some plastic sphere dispensers, so we call them PSD. They're little balls that ignite when they hit the ground. It's a little chemical reaction. They look like a sparkler. We put about 400 balls in that area using a drone or a UAS. They were able to put them in very specific places, and so we put some balls down in there to see how that's going to burn, because we would like to burn this to our control line in order to hold this in place instead of just having it be an open line. So we did that yesterday afternoon, trying to get some consumption of the brushy fuels in there. Late last night in the evening, about, I don't know, 9-10 o'clock, the thermal belt set up, and so it stayed really warm in that area, in that terrain, and so there was an increase in fire behavior. Nothing that was getting crazy, but that will help the consumption. So we're going to continue with that work today and over the next coming days to try and close that up. Across Independence Creek Road, crews continue to mop up some of the slop overs as we move towards Independence, down towards Independence, but the slop overs are all looking good, and we're feeling good about no additional movement, but there is still a lot of work to be done in order to keep containment. As we move down through the corridor, things are looking good. Not a lot of movement on the pooch over here by Cottage Grove. Again, we can't get people in there, but we are keeping an eye on it from the ground and from the air. And just some smokers in there high up, but that no concern as of yet for this area. Crews got in and brushed out and snagged the road up to Yukonom Lookout, so that's good work in there. And then as we continued south, there was some continued mop up. Folks are getting in to places that have been cold for a while, just to patrol and make sure that everything's staying put. We did get into some really deep ash pits yesterday, which is a big concern for us as far as public getting into the fire area. That's why we still have forest closures around the fire area. There's still quite a few hazards out there, including snags, ash pits, things of that nature. So firefighters are still working all along the areas that we do have containment. Again, containment doesn't mean that it's not going to move. It's just a high likelihood it's not going to move, but there's still heat and still work to be done. So folks are still in that area. We're also pulling a lot of the hose, pumps, and pumpkins, what we call pumpkins, from the 96 corridor, because we feel really good about where the fire is sitting. So you'll see that work going on today, just as we're pulling those our equipment and supplies out. Doesn't mean we're walking away or turning our back. We just feel like we don't need to have it deployed out in the 96 corridor. As we move down towards Marble Mountain Ranch, Rogers Creek, down into Soames Bar, and then across into the Salmon River area, there is still prep going on, brushing and such around structures and homes in order to have them prepared in case we should have anything happen. We're feeling like we're in a pretty good position given the time of year, but there'll be an increase of fire behavior probably as the week goes on. Not a significant increase, but a little bit more activity. So you might see smokes coming out of the fire area. Just know that we are watching that both from the ground and from the air. As we get over into Woolly Creek, everything looks good. Yesterday we talked about the cabins, that all looks good. There are some smokers up on top of the ridge southeast of where the cabins are, and so we're really trying to evaluate how to get folks in there. It's steep, rugged terrain, not very accessible. As you know, it's about a 10-mile hike up the drainage to get even into that area. So developing a plan there to deal with some of those smokers. We are putting water buckets on there just to hold it in place while we get the right tool for the job. When I talk about tools, I mean personnel. You know, not everyone has the capacity or capability to get in here, so we're waiting for the right people to see what we can do there. We were able to fly the fire all the way around. Minimal activity out to the far east. Some smokers along the ridge there, but everything was looking good yesterday. A few smokers across the whole fire environment. Again, the fire behavior yesterday, mostly smoking in the heavier materials. Kind of expect a little bit of open flame probably today on those consumables as the warm air mass continues to sit over us. When we get the little bit of that southwest or westerlies, that brings in a little bit more moisture. But today I think we'll see a little bit more possibly increased fire behavior and fire activity. We'll continue to fly. We've got a couple of different platforms to keep eyes from above, both in the north and in the south. And so that's a way we're getting a lot of our intelligence, along with the infrared resources that we have available to us, both ground-based and aerially. Probably notice a little bit of increased acreage today. The fire did not grow outside its footprint. What happened is these interior islands are starting to get a little bit smaller, and so the acreage growth was basically due to the interior islands starting to consume. As I was flying yesterday, taking a look, there's a lot of really good understory burn, meaning that the trees didn't all catch fire and are dead. So there's a lot of really good understory, just taking care of the brushy material underneath. So that's a lot of the areas looking good. You guys know that there's a lot of fire history in here. So where our fire meets the old scars, again, most of that fire stays on the ground. The Little Marlboro fire, we still have some folks in there. Today will be their last day, probably coming out tomorrow, and they're just buttoning that up, making sure it's secured and it's contained. It's been contained but controlled, and possibly calling that out before they pull out tomorrow. So that's an update for today, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow.